welcome to Revolución, a Hispanic Heritage Month 2022 virtual event. I am your host, Rafael, aka the Latin Babbler. I am here with our 2022 Todo Wafi Community Hero winner. She is the founder of Los Courageous Camps, El Barrio Athletic Club, an organization that helps to bridge the economical and cultural gaps that prevent the Latino community from going to the ocean to learn how to surf. And also, she is the author of the book called Courageous Camilla. Welcome to the show, Giselle Carrillo.
Gracias. So happy to be here.
You know, it's kind of funny when when you were nominated, we were originally just going to do like a post. So the whole intention was we were going to grab as many people as we could that were like really inspiring people in the community. And we were just going to do posts like we were going to do with the Latin legends that, you know what I'm saying? And so when I read your story, I immediately told my team, I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to put her on a post. We have to turn around and interview because like your heart is absolutely inspiring.
Thank you so much. I made it.
I mean, you made it a long ass time ago, so we're gonna. But let's talk about your story because that's one of the things that we do here. It's Hispanic Heritage Month. You're a Mexican American, first generation Latina, born and raised in East Los Angeles. I'm over here on the I don't know what it's called. I guess the Valley is what they call it. I'm from New Jersey, so for me, Granada Hills is the Valley. That's where I'm at. Um, and so we hear a lot of stories about being first gen. What was your story like?
Oh man, being first gen is something that when I was growing up, not a lot of people talked about the difficulties and the challenges, and really that you become an adult as a child. So my story is that I'm the daughter of two immigrants. My dad ran across the border through the desert. He tells me that story so many times, and my mom snuck in a car. And for many years, they actually had to work to get their residency and then their citizenship. But I started working when I was 7 years old at my dad's mechanic shop, helping him answer the phone,
Wow.
translating documents for him. Oh, yeah, I've been hustling for a while. And I actually learned English once I got to school. I didn't know a lick of English until my mom put me in kindergarten. And I started to learn English in school, which is why I don't have an accent, I think. But yeah,
You don't, because trust
okay.
me, people would point it out if you do. We're
Yes, yeah, it'll be in the comments if I do. But I didn't grow up with much. Like I said, my dad was a mechanic and he worked incredibly hard. It was a trade that was given to him by his eldest brother back in Mexico. But I saw my dad not make any money for some months. I also saw my dad not work because he was assaulted in his shop and actually shot in the stomach.
wow.
So, and you grow up with these stories and these experiences, and you think it's normal because you don't have anything else to compare it to. And I think once I went to college, that's when I actually realized how poor I was, that there were other kids who'd gotten all 4 years of their college education paid for. And I was sitting there with hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. And I think that maybe is when I started to feel like the world was really unfair. But through its unfairness, I felt like I needed to figure out a way, number one, to just like figure out why I had this experience. And now I know it's because I'm supposed to inspire the next generation and just bring more light. And I'm so grateful that in this day and age, and there's podcasts and there's social media that allow kids like us to talk about the things that we saw and we went through as kids that are first gen and had to, like I said, take a responsibility and almost an adult role as young kids. And I hope the next generation doesn't have to do that as much. But I'm proud of it. I totally own it.
Mine wasn't as intense. Is that what? Let me ask you something. Was from a Los Angeles perspective, because we moved here 2 years ago, and we've heard the stories from like the '80s and the '90s and so forth. So was East LA like that in general? Like, did you grow up watching that type of environment for the most time?
I feel like I'm really lucky because I spent half of my childhood in East LA, but I went to school about 10 minutes away. So I got to go to sleep in a very different neighborhood. But my
Yeah.
grandmother took care of me and she was there. My dad's mechanic shop was there right next to Olympic Boulevard. I mean, yeah, it was that way. And I mean, I think what happened to my dad happens to a lot of other dads, unfortunately. Um, And what's really interesting is we didn't have health insurance. So my mom actually went to drive my dad to the hospital because he didn't want to call an ambulance. Um, I don't know. I don't know enough about the history of LA at that time, but it's not the only story like mine that I've heard. And I think that's where, I mean, yeah, LA's tough. LA can be
Yeah,
tough.
I had a friend of mine who, she's talking about like West New York, and she talks about different parts of like North Hollywood. And to her, she's like, I grew up when LA was like the ghetto, so to speak, or like
Mm.
gang infested. And for me, like I don't see it because you go through LA now, it's all bougie in most of the areas. Like it's all
It's
high rises.
changing.
And yeah, it's changing
Yeah.
dramatically. So let me see. So I mean for me, like my mom, single mom, put two kids, trying to survive basically. I know in your sense, like what your parents went through with their struggles. My mom went through, similar struggles as far as like what it was like to put food on the table. If there was one thing that you feel your parents did best to help you become the person that you were, that you are today, what is that?
My mom, my parents didn't have a chance to get an education. In Mexico, they had to opt out of pretty much at middle school. You had to pay for school if you advanced past that. And
Yeah.
for both of their families, having more income come in through their children was critical. So at sixth grade and seventh grade, respectfully, my dad and my mom stopped going to school. They just stopped going to school, period.
Oh wow.
And so when I was being raised, my parents gave us a lot of. We always had a roof over our heads. Maybe there wasn't a lot of food in the fridge, but the one guidance and thing that I'll always be so grateful for is that my mom always made sure that we knew how important education was. And so she gave us that environment in order to be able to focus on school. There was always a quiet space to do homework, even if she needed. She never made me take care of my sisters directly. I know there's kids like me who had to be caretakers, and I had the
Oh yeah.
ability to do my schoolwork, to go. I never played sports, so that's very interesting that now I'm so sporty. We didn't have the money to do that. But when it came down to a book that I needed, a notebook that I needed, time to do my homework, I had it. She could never help me with my homework. I remember by third grade math, she was like, sorry, Mija, that's it. I'm tapping
That's it.
out.
I'm
Go to
tapping out.
school, ask your teachers.
She's like, that's
But
what teachers are for. We pay taxes for that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, and I think that's why I ended up becoming a teacher for the first 5 years of my career, because teachers were almost like second parents to me, in the upbringing that I had. But my mom said education's the one thing that nobody can take away. And I feel that. And I would add nowadays that education and life experiences are the two things that nobody could take away from you.
That is really good. That is really good. And look, there's a lot. I think that a lot of the things that first gen, for the most part, when we're reminiscing as to like the struggles that we had to go through, one of those things is that how hard our parents did push that narrative, like making sure that what we're going for is like the absolute best. I think a lot of it is because of what they went through, and they want to make sure that we don't go through those same paths or circumstances. But I do want to touch on sports because you mentioned it. You didn't play sports. I didn't know that. But surfing, you absolutely love surfing. I mean, when you go on your social media, it is literally everywhere. It's a part of what you do. I mean, growing up, I watched movies about a bunch of surfers that I used to watch all the events. You know, I never saw myself in those surfers. Like it was always like white males that were on there being really cool. I wanted to do that. What got you into surfing? Like out of all things.
It doesn't make sense, right? Not only was I never in sports, but I actually didn't really know how to swim. The first time I got in a big body of water was in high school, physical education class, PE. And my teacher was like, yeah, you have to learn to swim. And I was terrified. I did not master the sport or the activity. But it kind of goes back to what I was saying, this hyper focus of being good in school and getting a good job so I could uplift my family from the, minimum wage jobs that they were working their whole lives. And when you are tasked with something so heavy as a first generation kid and you see it, right? You see them struggling. My parents almost lost their house at one point. It's critical that you make it. And in doing that, I lost myself. I never chased things that just made me curious unless it was connected to getting a better job someday. I just forgot about it. It felt like unnecessary. It felt like things that are joyful and fun are necessary. But I honestly, at 25, got into a really dark chapter where it was depression. Honestly, it was. I
Yeah.
was always safe technically, but I remember getting up and not feeling any desire to do anything. And that was so unlike me because I'm such a positive person normally. And when I hit that rock bottom, just in my emotional health, I realized I had to go do things that would bring me up from that, that would show me some light, show me some joy, that were totally selfish. And I, as the eldest of three girls, you never do anything that's just selfish, just for you.
Yeah, the one for you.
Um, just for you. And very much like you, I always saw the movies. I went to school right by the beach to college. There were tons of people that went to class with me and they had wetsuits hanging from their balconies, surfboards on their cars. But it almost felt like so foreign, like something that a person like me could never do. I've never seen another brown person surf. So you
Yeah.
disconnect. You think those two things can't coexist. But what I realize now is like it's okay to be the first one in your community, in your family. And
Oh,
then I
for sure.
realized like yeah, I'd done that in other ways, right? I was the first person in my family to go to college and it was incredibly hard. I've been the first person in my family to write a book and that was incredibly hard, but you get to be a pioneer and build the path. So how surfing happened is I moved back to Venice with my sister. We were sharing a one-bedroom apartment. Crazy. But we asked ourselves, I know, we had Venice before it got as expensive and as bougie as it is now. This was like 10 years ago. And we told ourselves, what's one thing that'll bring us some happiness tomorrow? And surfing was the first thing. So we signed up for a lesson, went and felt completely in love, but also like struggled a lot because we weren't swimmers. We didn't have a dad who grew up surfing. The surf instructor was great, but like it's surfing is such a weird experience because you're asking your body to do something it never ever does. And so the challenge of learning something completely new that your family almost they were like, "That's loca, ¿qué es esto?" Like Latinos don't do this. Yeah, I had my dad tell me like, "Are you okay? Like, we don't do this stuff." Um, yeah, threw myself in the ocean, and like I said, I didn't really know how to swim, but now I'm a much better swimmer, always getting better, but it was this idea, you know what I I'm a great floater, but here's I think what really made me curious about the ocean is that I noticed that the people that seem really happy and at peace with life, like they surfed, surfers look really happy. And I think I reached a point where I was like, I want to be happy. I want this thing that they've tapped into. And if it's in the ocean, I want in. But it wasn't an easy journey. Lots of YouTube videos, lots of doing really embarrassing things in the ocean, and eventually you find community and people that help you out. So I'm really lucky I got that eventually.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that because, like, statistically, people thought that, like, surfers, you see them in the movies, they're all like, yeah, man, if you know, like, they think that everybody is like that. But we're starting to find out through a lot of research and so forth that the majority of the surfers are actually highly intelligent people who
Very
actually, and
much
first
so.
of all, it's an expensive sport. So it's not, like, it's not something where you can just go and, take a boogie board. And if you want to go surf professionally, those boards aren't cheap.
They're
So, but
not.
have you tried to pursue it professionally? Because when I look at like surfing and even surfing competitions, there are literally no people of color or any of representation for our comunidad. Like, is that something that you've thought about?
I don't think it's my purpose, my truest purpose. I think my truest purpose is probably um outside of the ocean and maybe telling my story around what I experienced in the ocean. And I
Yeah,
think at the core of it, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. I think I was put on this world to do that. I do see the gap that you're talking about. And I think that in a generation, we will fill that gap. It's going to take a while. Most people that are professionals have grown up with families that surf themselves. They've been in the ocean since they could begin to swim. I never think it's too late to do anything, but starting surfing at 25 and the fact that I still live, well, my family's pretty far from the beach. I live in San Pedro. It's not the best surfing break. Like access is still a problem for me. I surf once a week.
yeah,
And I definitely believe that to become a master at something, 10,000 hours is critical. So I'm still mastering it. I don't know if that's my path, but am I going to try to get the next child that comes through Los Courage camps to be part of that if that's their dream? Absolutely. I think
Oh,
my role in the surfing world is to inspire that kid that's going to do it.
I want to talk about that because you just mentioned it. So Los Courage camps. So you, what inspired? First of all, what inspired the name and then the vision for it? Because it started. What is it? El Barrio Athletic Club, right? And I think it was in like 2000. I think that's from what 2017. But in like 2020, you like converted your garage to like create some type of health space for people in the barrio. But what encouraged the name and the vision behind that?
Well, I think that although I wasn't intending to get into the ocean, to find my courage in the ocean, I think I really was just trying to wash away some of the heaviness and darkness that I was experiencing and just
Yeah.
like laugh. But what I found by literally jumping into something that I feared my whole life, and that my mother actually used to tell me, El mar es traicionero, the ocean will betray you, to jump into something that's literally a force of nature and can take life and give life, all of it, right? And come out fine, and then do it over and over and over again. I felt that what I was feeling was courage over and over and over again, and it was
Yeah, of
growing in
course.
me. And after I started to conquer surfing, I ended up going to the gym for the first time in my life. I left my first career and jumped into a second career. And it was that feeling in my heart that I was learning in the ocean that I was carrying into all these other transformative things in my life and switching my life completely. And I still feel it to this day. I bought a house last year and I felt the courage
Yay.
again. Yeah, yeah, by myself too. It's courage is the emotion where things switch from not believing something's possible for you to knowing that the possibilities are endless. I can't explain it. I don't have science behind it, but once you feel courageous, it's limitless. Life is limitless. And so I knew that sports and activities, and especially surfing, could get children to tap into that really early. The earlier, the better. So I figured we're going to make a camp, and the focus is to teach children courage through activities in the ocean or through other sports. That was in 2017, and it really just started with 2 kids, grew to 5, grew to 10, grew to 30. When the pandemic happened, I mean, we lost relatives. My dad lost his youngest sister. What I realized is that when I had gotten into surfing, it also motivated all these other changes in my life. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take control of my health. I didn't look this way. I was much heavier. I was pre diabetic. And actually, I remember sitting at a family party one day as a kid, laughing, like as a joke, right? Oh, yeah, yeah, haha, primo. Like when we get diabetes too, because Tia has diabetes and Theo has
Yeah.
diabetes and my mom has diabetes. It was almost like this acceptance that like our the last generation has it, we probably will too,
We're
right?
probably gonna get it too. Yeah.
And so I just decided, no, I don't think that that's the reality. Look what I overcame in the ocean. I think I can take back my health as well. I had started to work on that and was teaching my parents to be healthier, and I realized that the Latino community does not know 10 fundamental basics of being healthier, from food to sleep to basic movement to stretching to like knowing when you're going to get injured, mental health. And so I made my garage into a gym so that I could begin to teach our community, because we East LA was the epicenter of the pandemic and
Very much so. Yeah.
COVID.
It was like New York. New York had a what was it? I think ironically it was called Corona. The city of Corona, New York,
This
was fully Latino. I think it's like 90% Latinos, and that was the epicenter in New York. It's crazy.
Yeah. I just felt like it was my duty and not even an optional responsibility. I had to. I work now in nutrition and wellness. Um, we don't see a lot of Latinos tapped into that field and that knowledge, right? Knowledge is power and health is wealth. And if we don't have a healthy body, like we're just very limited to what we can do. And the pandemic showed us we will lose people. And I just want to make sure that that's not something that happens again. So I don't have credentials. I just know a lot. And so the gate and the door's always open. We'll open it and throw events around martial arts, around what to eat, what are the 3 macronutrients, things that like are on the internet, but our community often doesn't find them. And yeah, it's become this like very safe space, because I don't think people realize how scary it is to go to a gym, a 24-hour fitness and LA fitness.
Trust me, I'm still terrified, which is why I don't go. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
why I look the way I do, though. So, but I do have to start going. My daughter has a membership, and she dragged me along a couple of times this week.
Come to a
So
Barrio
we'll have
Athletic
to.
Club. We'll work out together.
I'm. Oh, that's an invitation I might take. Don't worry. I might take everybody else's attention though. We'll
Yeah.
go over there, and everybody's like, "Why are you giving him all? Because he needs it the most. He needs it the
No,
most." El
we all
pobre.
need it. We all need it. We all need it. But I want to leave my community better than I found it. But I also want to honor that the last generation went through so much and built so much for us to be able to do what we do. If it wasn't for my parents' sacrifices, I wouldn't be here today. And so, yeah, I owe it all to my mommy and my papi and all of our relatives. Yeah.
That is a beautiful line. I want to leave my community better than what I got it. That's really awesome. And I think a lot of Latinos should really take that into heed because, one of the biggest things we do here is, we're trying to promote culture at another level. And I think because of how diverse that is, you're Mexican, I'm Puerto Rican, Dominican, so we have so much, that we could share that would be different just from even both of our ethnicities. So it's really cool to hear somebody say that because I think we need more of that to be able to kind of make change.
Mhm.
And because I think I read somewhere where you said, we don't look for the purpose of something. We always kind of just look for. I think it was in reference to people, trying to find their passion. Where Latinos are always trying to get, tell people, hey, become doctors, become engineers, and so forth. But we don't really push it with a purpose. And I think it's cool that you found your purpose
Mm.
because I think more people need to do that. Is they need to find their purpose in something to be able to kind of make change at a different level than what we've been trying to do. You're an author. So when you wrote, Courageous Camilla, like that's your story, right? Like you just basically put your story on paper.
Pretty much. I mean, we're going to write a second book. And in the second book, the dad is more part of the story and what she learns there. And he's going to be a mechanic, just like my dad. So it really is, me if I had tapped into all these things when I was much younger. But yeah, I mean, I do feel really blessed that I found my purpose. It took a lot of soul searching, a lot of looking at my history. I remember one day I actually wrote the history of Giselle, from my abuelitos to my parents to me and everything that
Oh,
I
that's
experienced.
cool.
Yeah, and I have it somewhere in a Google Doc, but digging into my roots, I highly recommend that for somebody that wants to find their purpose, because once you do, I mean, we can all chase other things, but you're just not going to succeed the same way that you are when you chase something that is authentically your purpose. And all of us, I think, even on a scientific level, we're all born with this wiring and these genetics that are so unique to us, our time, our parents, our story. And nobody is like you. And if you can figure out who you are, that's purpose. And I just don't think I would have been a great lawyer. I hate to argue. And that's what my dad wanted me to be. So, it's been healing for him too, to see that he wanted to give me these tools to succeed. Be a lawyer, mija, be an engineer. And really, through him cruising with me through some uncomfortable things that he didn't know, like surfing, like leaving one job, jumping to another career, have actually really paid off. And the book actually happened, it kind of landed on my lap. I had a publisher reach out to me to ask if I wanted to write the book. I think that's the power of living a life that's true to you and that's true to your passion and your purpose. The opportunities kind of just come. So
Yeah.
I mean, it took a lot of work to write the book. I don't want to shy away from that. It's taken a
Hey,
lot of work.
women in literature is not a thing. Like we've spoken. We have a literature panel with Brenda,
Wow.
and it is really tough to have. I think it was like 2% represented in literature, 7% in total. 2% are Latinas. So the fact that you wrote a book says it in itself. And I
Yeah.
like it because it says the story of finding your inner warrior. Like it's so cool. Like that is like the ultimate the ultimate step of courage for
Yeah.
somebody who's actually reading a book like that.
Yeah, I think you forget that all of us were warriors, and that's why we chose that word. And even in the book, Camila loves to read, which Giselle loved to read. You know, I'd be at the dinner table actually reading. And we were warriors. If you look at our history, and that's what I mean about digging into our roots, our history is beautiful, and all these things
Very
that
much so.
yeah, we forget, you know, surfing comes from Peru and from Indonesia. And those are indigenous people. Surfing comes from our people. I took a trip probably 2 years into being a surfer to Sayulita in Nayarit. My family's from Nayarit, and didn't realize that Sayulita is a surfing town. So if you dig into things, you'll realize that it is for us and we are connected to it.
That is amazing. You see, I didn't know that. So I knew that they do it in Peru, but the fact that I never thought about it as the fact that we've been kind of like I guess, in the forefront of a sport. But then again, you know what it is? I mean, we're better at it, at a bunch of stuff than other people. So we have to market it better. We got
Yeah,
to get some more Latinos on those boards.
we will. We will. And
So,
I think we're doing that.
hey, women are taking it over. I think it was 30% women now actually surf, which is like really cool. So now if we can get the men to do it too, then or the Latino men to jump on there, we'll be able to jump on that. Like, when it comes to your camps though, I want to talk about the kids. Like, how many kids do you have on average that attend the camps now?
So we do our focus is the summers right now to introduce children to the ocean, and in the future we're going to move to a model where we actually have surf days for the kids that want to keep
Hmm.
surfing, almost like a surf club is what I like to
Yeah.
call it. Transportation is definitely an issue, but in the summers we will open registration for a surf day, and 30 spots are always available. This last time we actually made it an all boys event and 44 young boys signed up. So
Wow.
the need is beyond what we can actually host. So yeah, about 30 students that we can safely teach and their families. So we line up the beach with beautiful brown people, which is so unique. You don't see it often, especially in some of the beaches that we're surfing. But it's a big fiesta for sure.
What is the most common like feedback you get from these kids that attend, the program?
I think a lot of them, because of media now, because of television, they've always wanted to do it. They just didn't know how. And they probably give me a little less feedback than their parents. I'll tell you about their parents' feedback, but for the kids, a lot of them say like, "No, I did get scared. And then you told me I should keep trying and I should keep going." And especially for I mean for both boys and girls, but when you see little kids start to acknowledge these emotions and that they overcome these emotions in a matter of minutes, honestly. Because you get a kid in the water and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this water's scary. I can't see underneath. My toes are touching this sand and it's weird." For them to acknowledge that they overcame something they couldn't do just a few minutes ago is powerful. And then they begin to ask, how do I keep doing it? And you're right, surfing
Yeah.
is very expensive, and we're working to essentially build surf lockers somewhere close to the beach so that our community always has a place to pick up a board if they need it. We all in our community, the adults, share boards. But I think the most interesting feedback comes from the parents. I would say 90% of them wished or looked at surfing and wanted to do it when they were young
Yes.
and had the same story as you and I. But there's no other brown person out there doing it. Therefore, it's not for me. I can't do it. And they grew up and became parents, still having this dream tucked in the back of their hearts. And then one day they bump into Los Courage Camps, our Instagram or our website or a news story on us or a podcast. And they're like, wait a minute, that was a tucked away dream. I want to bring that dream back and actually give this chance to my kids. So a majority of them wanted to be surfers and never had a way to do
I still got that dream. I'm now a
it.
parent, I'm a father of three, and all of them are all probably your age. And I still want to surf. Like,
Let's
I've
do
been
it.
dying to actually try it out. I was gonna actually do one of those courses or whatever they have, those but they're I feel like I need a better experience than that. So I'm gonna hit you up. And anybody else who wants to go surfing, if you're in the Los Angeles area or in California, just come in. We're gonna go surf it all together, man. That's gonna
Let's
be a
do
lot
it.
of fun. I think that a lot of these kids are really blessed to have you. I think the community is really blessed to have you. I'm really inspired by your story, and I hope that during this Hispanic Heritage Month, people will look up and say, "Hey, you know what? I can do what she's doing at my end at whatever small level you can. And it'll be something inspiring that you can do in the community. So Giselle, if folks wanted to follow you, your journey, or even the camps, where would they go?
Yes, so they can go to loscouragecamps.org. Or you can follow our journey on Instagram, Courage Camps. I also have my personal page, which I get, all these little life lessons. I love to share them on Instagram, Giselle CC. And I'd love to just connect with other people that want to get into the ocean and tap into its power. She's a master teacher for sure. She's transformed my life, and that's my purpose now, to transform more lives of my Latino community. Yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. This is like really awesome. I had like this like most inspiring conversation I've had in a while.
Oh, thank you. You gave me the chills multiple times too. It's important to hear the reflections as well. This work isn't easy. I have my full-time job as well, and I have a bunch of other projects. So to hear somebody just reflect and to be nominated for this award, it's a blessing.
Yeah, look, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to have you. I mean, it's one of those things where we were just like, oh, we have to put her in one of our interviews. I think your story is absolutely amazing. Guys, thank you for joining us in this very special interview. 2022 community hero Giselle Carrillo, part of our Revolución Hispanic Heritage virtual event brought to you by Todo Wafi. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Todo Wafi and be a part of the 30 days of celebration of representation that we are doing. You can catch the entire schedule online at www.todowafi.com. I'm Rafael. That is Giselle. And we are out.
Desde Nicaragua hasta Costa Rica, con esta canción todo mundo se identifica. Llamen a los chilenos y a los cubanos, llamen a Puerto Rico y a los mexicanos, que ya se armó la rumba. Desde Panamá hasta Ecuador, vámonos a Perú y luego hasta Salvador. Que se escuche en Brasil y Argentina.
Yo quiero un grito de mi gente latina y levantaré mi bandera, estando en mi país o estando allá afuera, porque para mí, mira, no existen fronteras. Yo levantaré mi bandera.